This is TWiT.
Stop Motion Mikah is here, and he is very excited because even though I'm not a gamer at all and I don't really understand games, I think that Microsoft's latest series of consoles is fascinating. And I think that some of the stuff that's going to be coming with it is also fascinating. And so I thought, if I'm excited about this, but I don't really understand it, what do I do? Well, of course, I talked to an expert. So we have the editorial director of Gamespot here, Randy Ramsey, to talk with us about this. Welcome to the show, Randy. Thank you for being here.
No worries. Thank you for having me. Hi, Mikah. Hi, Jason.
Hello. Hello. So let us start with what comes first, which is Microsoft Xbox announced two consoles, right? Can you kind of talk about the two consoles and what is different between the two?
Okay, so they basically confirmed the release dates and the prices for both their next generation consoles. So one is called the Microsoft Xbox Series X. The other one is Xbox Series S. And essentially, if you look at the spec sheet, the top level spec sheet, they kind of look fairly much the same. You know, both of these things are promising, you know, next generation capabilities. So better graphics, faster speed, you know, 4K output. And really the two key differences here between the two models is price. The Series X is really the flagship model for Xbox. So this is the one that has all the bells and whistles on it. You know, this one comes in at $499. It can output native 4K, and it has a Blu-ray drive within it. The Series X is the model step down, which comes in at $299. It can output at 1440p. Is digital only, so it doesn't have a drive in it, and the form factors are also vastly different. So if you look at the Series X, it looks like a black fridge, like a little black monolith, whereas the Series S is, you know, a little bit more streamlined. It's apparently 60% smaller than the Xbox Series X, and kind of, if you're looking at this picture right now, kind of looks like a turntable, you know, turned on its side. So yeah, that was the big news for this week because you know, we've been waiting on the game side. We've been waiting for confirmation about the release date and pricing for these things. It's kind of late in the game to come talk about these type of things, but obviously COVID's turned everything upside down. So it was great to finally hear that news. And really, this week was the first time that we officially found out about the Series S. You know, previously it was just all about the Series X and like the flagship model. And this week was when they talked about the Series X, Series S in full.
Gotcha. So let's talk about that the console you say that is utterly and entirely digital. What then is the point of having a console that has a drive? What's the reason that someone would want to have a drive and have physical versions if you can do everything digitally, if that makes sense? And maybe I'm misunderstanding too. I mean, I'd love to know why that's a difference there.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of key things there. I mean, obviously, you know, positioning that Blu-ray drive, you know, makes it the premium product for Xbox. But I think storage is another key factor in this. So, you know, the Xbox Series X comes with a terabyte of storage. The S only comes with 512 gigs. And I think, you know, for a lot of gamers, particularly for folks who don't have really good broadband or have broadband caps, you know, having to download games all the time can quickly eat up your storage. So, you know, a game can be anywhere between 40 and 100 gigs in download. So if you've got a cap, that could, you know, easily take up, you know, your cap for the month. And then on top of that, you know, games are constantly being updated, like every week with new patches and new updates. You know, Call of Duty games, for example, can come up with like 20 to 60 gig updates, you know, just on their own. So it can be a real killer, you know, when you have a broadband limitation on your side. So, you know, I can totally see a lot more folks that are wanting to go for the disc version to try and save their internet.
So along those lines, then, when you're talking about storage, you know, 512, especially when you're talking next gen, games is going to go like that, for the most part. On my PS4, I can't remember how much storage I even have on there. I want to say it's like 250, somewhere around there. But I'm getting mostly digital, and I've definitely hit the limit where if I want to install a new game, I have to uninstall one or two previous games in order to make room for it. What about external storage to kind of alleviate this kind of storage pressure? Does it make sense to get the lesser spec'd device and then just buy an external hard drive or roll your own and plug it in? Is that going to be easy to do?
Yeah, both consoles, like the SSDs in both consoles are proprietary, and there are it is expandable between like in both models of the Xbox. So like Microsoft will be coming out with a branded 1 terabyte SSD expansion for these things, and you can also attach non SSD drives to it. But from what we understand from Microsoft, you can only use that for storage. If you actually want to run the game, it has to be installed on the internal SSD. So, there are options for folks who, want to expand their storage. And you're right, Jason, I've got 2 terabytes on my PlayStation 4 right now, and I'm constantly swapping things in and out. So, this could potentially be an issue for some people.
Got it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we've got these 2 consoles, and we've got prices and things like that in place. One of the big things, and something that I saw a lot of people talking about, is Microsoft's means of kind of trying to make this console available to more people, and whether that's a matter of inclusion and accessibility, or it's a matter of Microsoft trying to sort of win the console wars, is beside the point. I think that this fascinating new way of doing things with a sort of payment plan it's not novel because we've seen it with smartphones and things like that. But can you talk about that and what you think in terms of how that could open up this console to more people who maybe are, on older versions of the Xbox?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. This is essentially the smartphone model in which, Xbox has this program called All Access that you can pay a monthly fee over 24 months that will spread the cost of the console. The smart thing that they're doing with that is actually including games. So, Xbox will include, if you buy into All Access, it will include access to Game Pass, which is, Xbox's all-you-can-eat game service. So it's sort of like Netflix. They have 100 games on there, and you can just basically, play any one of those as long as you're subscribed to the service. They've also bundled in EA Play, which is a separate company. So like EA Play on its own has 60 games. So, what they're trying to do here is, build an ecosystem around this hardware. And, usually you obviously have to buy these things separately, but I think Microsoft in some way has been forced to do this because frankly they just haven't had the software lineup to really back up their consoles. PlayStation won this last generation of game consoles pretty handily, and that was on the back of some really key first party titles, exclusives, and Microsoft really doesn't have that right now. So the way they're trying to play, the way they're trying to win this next console generation is to make it all about the services around the Xbox. So you may not have the big exclusive titles like God of War or Spider-Man on your console, which are PS4 exclusives, but you do have this thing in which you're paying $25, $35 a month. You get a console, you get access to 160 games. So they are really trying to make it a lot more appealing for folks who may have been had some hesitation jumping into this, because it's a much clearer proposition for a lot of folks to say, here's a box and here's all the games and this is your monthly fee.
Now, when you're talking about the 2 consoles that Microsoft is offering, obviously very different price categories, but along with that, you've mentioned that kind of the technology inside is a little bit different. Where do you place, or what do you place higher in the hierarchy of what these 2 consoles offer? As far as, the lesser model you get 60 frames per second, which is a pretty great upgrade. And I think a lot of people are going to be pretty happy with that in their gaming experience, but you don't get 4K necessarily. The upper end model, you get the 4K, but are most people going to be happy with the lower resolution, higher frame rate entry level console by comparison? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that, previous experience of new console generations, I think early adopters always want to try and go for, like the best, like the best technology, the best sort of graphics, the best sound, the best everything. So I think, Microsoft, coming in right off the bat with a lower price model with slightly lower specs is actually a pretty smart move for them. Usually, like consoles, when they first come out, have a fairly high barrier to entry just because of the cost. So, $499 for the top line Xbox Series X isn't cheap. It's not cheap, especially around our economic times right now. So, if that was the only offering that they came out with, leading into the holiday season this year, I think that would put off a lot of people. So, like, coming in with with a lower model with slightly lower specs, I think will appeal to obviously a much wider base. Like the fact that it doesn't quite pump out 4K, you don't have that Blu-ray drive in there, the drive is slightly smaller. I think that will be a lot of people will be able to just overlook that just to say that they were, there at the start of a new generation of consoles. Because for a lot of people, they usually have to wait a little bit, until the price goes down, until the software library goes up, but this allows people to jump in right on day one.